too long, didn't watch. So Eternal's basically the Jamie Vardy of card games. It's not doing anything particularly new, comes out of left field, comes along a bit late in the game. You don't expect very much of it. It's no Sanchez, it's no Rooney, but come the end of the day, it is a very polished package that can do very, very well indeed, given the right support. So here you can see the client straight away. It doesn't look very good. It looks a bit dated. I don't want to say 80s as such, but I definitely get like an 80s action movie vibe off it, like Cork the Slayer or something crazy like that. The card art as well, it is slightly better. It's not up there like it's the most polished, but you know it's fine. Don't have any like crazy shinies or anything like that I've seen so far, but it's good enough. It's just that the client looks a bit, you know, rough and ready, a bit dated, like I say, a bit like my videos, I suppose. Anyway, the new player experience, I'll start off with that, isn't great. I don't think it does it as well as other games do. There's some games where you play a game against the eye and then you're pretty much thrown into it, which, while it may be overwhelming for some people, essentially you get into the meat and gravy of the game straight away. You're not left just playing against these just really run-of-the-mill, nothing special AI decks that you have to play against repeatedly, because you play through it initially in the tutorial with the fire faction, then you have to play for each of the 4 other factions as well. You do want to finish them, I suppose, in a way, because you get pre-made decks from them, you get extra cards, and you get one of each of the faction leader legendaries at the end as well, which is nothing to sniff at. But in terms of, you know, trying to hook people in and say this is why you should play this game, it's not particularly brilliant, and I think it is a problem that the studio Direwolf needs to overcome, only because there's so many card games on the market at the moment that if you don't draw people in straight away and say, look, this is why you should play my game, or you haven't got like big popular names in the community, like often what happens is you get paid Hearthstone streams and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's the way forward, but that gives people a reason to kind of check the game out, and if they have to sit through 4 hours of playing against these half-baked AI decks, the chances of them staying probably aren't particularly good unless they really have a vested interest in playing. Now, going on from that, if you do get past that, because I think it'd be a real shame if you did miss out on this game, then you have basically solo battles, which are against AI, versus battles, which are against players. Now, Gauntlet is a nice laid-back way for you to build your collection for free. Just use one of your pre-made decks or build a deck, go against 7 AI opponents, and the more of them you beat, the more rewards you get. So, pretty straightforward, and like I say, it's really laid-back. Slightly more difficult than the tutorial, I would say, but not a great deal so, and so easy way to start building yourself some cards in gold. Then you've got Forge, and now Forge costs 2,500 gold to enter, which is 2.5 booster packs worth of gold. The interesting thing about this is that you draft the deck from cards that are offered to you, much like Hearthstone's Arena or Duelist Gauntlet, and then you get to keep those cards and they're just added to your collection. You then use the deck that you build from those to go against AI controlled opponents. The more of them you beat, the more rewards you get. Even though you're putting the money in, you're definitely getting something out before you've even played a game, just by adding those cards to your collection. Obviously, the bigger your collection gets, the more common and uncommon cards that you have, the less value that probably has to you, but very nice for people starting the game. Then over on the versus battle, casual's not available yet, probably because they don't want to dilute the player pool between casual and ranked. Then you have ranked, which is your standard best of 1 ladder play, and then you have draft. Now, draft is pricey to enter. It's 5,000 gold straight off the bat, which is 5 booster packs worth. But the interesting thing about this is that you're offered 48 cards, and then you pick the cards out of those that you want, and again, much like Forge, they're added to your collection, you keep them, which is great. You then play a series of games against other players, and you try and obviously win as much as you can, and the more you win, the increased rewards you get. Pretty standard for this kind of format. However, like I say, what's interesting is that you get to keep all the cards from your draft. So it might be that you just get some really wild drafts where you get offered, 6, 7 legendaries or something like that, which is really outlandish. You might think that you're not even bothered about whether the deck works at the end of it. You just want to take those legendaries, add them to your collection, and you're happy with the 5,000 gold that you've spent. And that kind of makes it interesting on 2 levels. Do you go for the greedy personal draft, or do you go for a functional deck that you think you can do quite well with and get your rewards that way? It's just a slightly different way to approach it. Certainly for games that I've played, people that have played Magic and loads of other games probably would disagree with me, but I think it's something really fresh and something interesting in the genre. It's unlike the other games I've played. So with that said, I think the game has a lot on offer. My only gripe really at this point, like I said, play about 25-30 hours, is that the new player experience is not quite there. I think it's generous in terms of what it gives you in terms of cards and everything else, but in terms of enjoyment and engagement in that initial few hours, I think it needs some work. Saying that, what we're going to do now is we're going to move on to some pre-made footage. I'm just going to run through a game just so you can see how the minions interact and kind of all the different scenarios in which they do damage to each other and everything else. And then in separate videos I'll go over all the keywords, and there are a hell of a lot of keywords in this game, and then I'll probably look at the factions and see what they're good and not so good at. So I hope you learned something from this. Hope it's informative. Leave us a like and subscribe, as there'll be a lot more of Eternal going forward, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. So coming into the game, you draw 7 cards. Unlike other games, you can't dictate which of those cards you keep and which of them you throw back. You've just kind of got to decide whether you redraw your whole hand or keep your whole hand. So it's a bit of a gamble, but obviously if you've got nothing playable, if you don't like the look of it, you can just throw it back and hope what you get next is better. Now, the cards on the left are the power cards, and these come in 5 factions and also dual faction cards as well. By playing one of these, you get 1 mana or 1 power, and you also get influence of that faction as well. Now, as you can see from the cards I've got on the right side of my hand, these cards have a number in the top left, which is the power required to play that card, and they also have a symbol as well, which is how much influence of that faction you need to play that card. So all of these cards here, for example, the 2 on the left, both require 3 power to play, but only 1 influence. So it does need to be a time influence, however, so I can't play, say, a sigil from another faction and still play those cards. It has to be that type of influence. Right, so here you can see they've attacked with their 3/1/1s. My 4/4 can now block one of these units. Now you can only block 1 unit for every 1 unit of yours. They can't block multiple units, but the way the interaction happens is that it will do its attack damage to your defending character. If it doesn't kill it, then that character will heal up again after your turn. Like, minions always heal after a turn in Eternal, and so you don't have these things where you can chip down a minion. You've kind of got to kill it in one go or leave it alone. And now, just to demonstrate that again here, I can attack with this unit, and they will try and block with the 3/2, but because I have 4 attack and 4 health, and obviously that only has 3 attack, it'll leave mine on 1 health, and so my guy will survive and theirs won't. And that kind of leads to these situations where, unless you can block or kill a unit cleanly with the help of something else afterwards, like a spell, you really don't want to be blocking things, otherwise it just kind of kills your unit for free. But similarly, you don't want to be attacking for no reason. You need to make sure that they can't get a valuable trade by you attacking just too aggressively when you don't really have any interest in doing so. So again, they're just attacking the 2/1/1s here. My 4/4 cleanly deals with one of them. There's no reason for them to do it, but obviously this is just the demonstration. And that unit has text attached to it, which means it heals me every time it blocks a unit as well. So you can play one of these power cards every turn. You can't play more than that outside of very specific cards, usually time-based cards. And so, provided you've got a sigil to play every turn, then you're in a pretty good spot. It gets awkward when you don't have sigils or other power cards in hand. You can set on a very low amount for a long period of time, but it's a requirement of the game that at least a third of your deck is built from power cards, so you shouldn't find yourself in that situation too often. Obviously, when you reach constructed as well, you can start to build your deck in such a way where you can draw into more of them through cards like Seek Power, or just other cards that, you know, play a sigil into play by using that card as well. So you'll notice that my Scorpion Wasp keeps lighting up on my opponent's turn now, or just before the start of my turn, as you can see from the start turn button there. And that's because it has a keyword called ambush, which I'll go into more depth in my next video. But what this means is it's a minion that I can play at any point during my opponent's turn as well. So in the attack phase, I could drop it and then guard with it to like surprise them, or if I'm floating some extra mana and have no other play to make, then I can just drop that at the end of my opponent's turn, and then my mana or power gets refreshed at the start of my next turn as well. So it's just a way to squeeze out an extra bit of efficiency if you've got nothing else to do. But it does mean that then your turn and then your opponent's turn as almost like a full round rather than it just being your turn, and that it's a tactical decision to make whether you play all of your power out on one turn to play something or whether you hold a bit back for your opponent's turn so that you can play something to interfere with their plan. And that makes this kind of really interesting back and forth on top of all the attack and guard action going on as well. So it is a bit of a tell with these ambush cards and fast spells. If your opponent has one in hand, then there will be a short delay between like attack and guard phases and everything else. But what we're doing here is just to show that these three minions here, the Grenadines, have 1/1 each. My guy has 2/3. So while you can only block one unit with one of your units, you can block one of their units with multiples of your unit. And what the game does is calculate the attack values, and you can't attack above your maximum attack value. So I get to attack twice here because they only have 1 health, and it uses up the 2 attack on the first 2 guys. But then the last one has 1 attack, and obviously I had no more attack, so that gets to kill my guy for free. If that minion of mine was a 3/3, then it would have killed all 3 of them. If it was a 1/3, then it only would have killed the first one. The next 2 still would have done the damage to my character and killed it and survived because my character had no attack value yet left. So that's another interesting interaction, and something else you need to be aware of when your opponent has more than 1 minion on the board, that they can do that kind of thing. You do get the option of which ones of the minions to damage, but then you need to kind of work out which is the most efficient way to use your damage. This use here is just to show that my guy has a text on it, that it gets 1/1 for every influence I have of the time faction that is a 0/0 base minion. And because that has text on the card, they use the silence, which removes like all text from that card, including keywords and everything else, and so that put that minion back to a base 0/0 and killed it. Here is what I was talking about earlier with ambushes and fast spells. Because I've got 13 power left from my last turn and haven't played anything, I can now play these 2 ambush minions and they can guard straight away to block my opponent's attacks and obviously break their plans a bit. I've also played this fast spell which gives one of my minions +4 health as well, just to give it a bit of extra power so it doesn't die to whatever it is it blocks against. I'm going to click block here, and then there's going to be a bit of a delay because my opponent also has a fast spell in hand. And so what they can do is, now that I've dropped these ambush minions and kind of countered their play, they're going to have their fast spell take out one of my wasps, and that's kind of counterplayed my counterplay, if you like. And so again, I keep talking about it, this back and forth, but it really is interesting, like all these little mind games and mini games that go on during a single turn, especially once you get later in the game. It really does add a lot of depth and complexity to the gameplay, which you might not necessarily find in other games, and it's one of the main reasons I'm finding it so enjoyable at the moment. So one of the points I forgot to mention earlier on is that minions can only attack or guard during one round, so like one version of your turn and then your opponent's turn. So if I choose to attack with my minions, that minion can't block. Right, so this is a relic weapon, which is just like a weapon in other games that you equip to your general. The difference is that you've got 1 armor, so every relic weapon has an attack and armor value here, and that's denoted by the purple circle. So you can't attack face with these if there are minions on the board. What they can do here is attack 4 damage into something, and then if they don't take 1 damage back, they keep it. If they do, then they lose it. So this spell here is a fast spell, gives an interaction that ruins an enemy attachment, so I could have used that to take that off and let that minion survive, but I'm not doing so in this scenario. So if you are able to get a relic weapon up and then build up a lot of armor through spells or something like that, then you can keep it for a fairly long time and keep clearing the board like that. But you do kind of need to protect your avatar and protect that armor value, otherwise that relic weapon will get removed very quickly. Now this interaction here is just to demonstrate the difference between magical buffs and weapon buffs. Weapons in this game act as buffs onto minions, but they are an attachment which is denoted by the blue square rather on the centaur. So if I were to silence that guy, as you'll see now, it doesn't actually remove the extra 3 health that weapon's given him, because it's not text on the card, it's an attachment, which, as I say, is a separate thing. So luckily, obviously this is all scripted, from that play before we've kept the decay, which removes an attachment from an enemy, and so we can remove the extra stats that way. Now this is an important distinction to make, because obviously weapons they can be very powerful, they can have effects and keywords built into them, and So you need to have some kind of removal or way to deal with that, otherwise they can cause you an awful lot of problems, and silence on its own isn't enough. So when you get to this stage of the game, obviously you've both got a lot of minions. Whoever blinks first kind of gets forced into the bad trades by their opponent being able to cherry pick. The only difference there is that Wasp on the left hand side has a keyword flying, which I'll go into more depth in the next video. But that means it can attack and it can't be blocked by a ground based unit, so a unit that doesn't have flying. However, it can block ground based units. It's now exhausted on this turn because it attacked, so it can't block here. But because my opponents decided to attack into me, I get to pick and choose what units of mine block which of his. So I get to dictate the trades here, I get to pick all the valuable trades. Obviously there's going to be some cases where my minions' attack is less than their minions' health, and the same for them, and those minions will kind of just bounce off each other, heal up afterwards if nothing really happened. But for all of these other ones I get to say, which minion goes where, which takes what trade, and so if you're in this situation where you've both got big boards or you've both got similar amounts of minions, it can be really difficult to decide when to push the button to attack, because, as I say, you get forced into trades that you don't really want to take, which gives a lot of initiative to the defending player, which isn't always the case in a lot of these games. So what we're going to see now is how, if your opponent has a lot of minions on the board, even if you've got big minions, that's not necessarily the game sealed right there. These little 1/1s at the back on the left hand side can block any of these minions, and it won't do any extra damage to my opponent's avatar. I mean, this one with 21 attack is going to go into one of these 1/1s and absolutely nothing will change. It will just kill that unit, go back and heal. And so while his minions, as they are at the moment, can't really challenge my board as such, they can stall the game out for quite a long time, provided he has enough minions to always block. So that's really the end of this demonstration. I mean, this game will play out, obviously, no cards in hand, nothing on the board. We'll just continue to blast through his minions. They do get to choose which trades they take, but realistically they're never going to have a way to deal with that big minion without silence, and we're quickly getting to a point where they have no minions left on board to block. So hopefully this was informative. I just wanted to give you a quick rundown of the interactions that are in play during a game. As I say, there's an awful lot of complexity and interactions that you can have on your opponent's board during their turn, which really spice things up and make this wholly kind of new and interesting experience for me, although people who have played Magic probably won't feel quite the same way. However, Eternal's rule set I think is fairly faithful to Magic, and a lot of previous Magic players have said how impressed they are with it, even to the point where they wish Magic the Gathering Online was kind of half the game Eternal was. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with more footage, just going over the keywords, which, as I say, there are an awful lot of, and then I'll go into the factions, taking a look at some of those cards, what they're good at, what they're not so good at, and just take it from there. So as I said at the start of the video, like the video, be a big help to me. If you do leave a comment, I'll just try and answer any questions that you've got or give my feedback on it, and I shall see you guys tomorrow.